Abundance is an internal state. It's an internal felt state of enoughness, being enough, feeling enough, knowing that we are enough, which is different than the external expression
Mhm.
in the outside material world of now I see material abundance. And, ideally, we want both. We want this union. We want this to feel more holistic. And
Welcome to the Everything Works Out for Us podcast. My name is Marina, and I'm so happy that you're here to join me on this journey of embracing a growth mindset that's grounded in gratitude and self awareness. I'm an REBT mindset life coach, actor, singer, content creator, and the bigger sister that you always wanted. And I'm ready to start turning our mental and emotional roadblocks into road maps. In each episode, I holistically utilize psychology, spirituality, and my own personal experiences to strive to empower you to step into your power and deeply connect to both your inner knowing and the world around you. Let's grow together. Hello, my beautiful listeners, and welcome back to the pod. We are one day away from Thanksgiving, and it's a perfect time to be extra conscious of giving gratitude for everything that we have and everything that we are trying to manifest. Especially with the holidays coming up, I think that money is probably on the forefront of a lot of our minds right now. And this week, I'm super excited to introduce an incredibly insightful, intelligent, and empowering guest who helps people transform their relationship with money. So today I'm chatting with Mikelann Valterra. She's a Seattle based money coach skilled in teaching others how to reduce money anxiety, effectively earn and save money, and reduce debt, and then ultimately design their ideal lives. And what is so inspiring about Mikelann is that she speaks on how money and spirituality are not mutually exclusive topics and how we can begin to overcome our fears surrounding money in order to transform our lives. And plus, she's a tango dancer, so it doesn't get much cooler than that. All right, so without further ado, let's get to the interview. Hi, Mikelann. I want to welcome you to the pod. I'm super excited to have you today. Listeners, if you're not familiar with Mikelann, you are going to want to get to know her, but I want her to speak for herself in her own words. So, Mikelann, I would love for you to give a brief introduction of yourself, what exactly a money coach is, and how you got to be where you are today.
hello from Seattle. Yeah, thanks for having me. I love your podcast. Yeah, so it's a great place to start. What is a money coach? A lot of people have never heard of money coaching, financial coaching. I'm also a financial therapist. So it used to be that when people had issues around money, they would either see like an investment planner for investment help or someone to help them with debt. And like consumer credit counseling or something. Both are great and helpful, but neither are great at the emotional side of money. And oh my gosh, money is emotional. So money coaches look at both the practical side of money. How do you plan where you want to spend your money? How do you know if you can afford to go to Hawaii? But the emotional side is where we go, what would it be like if you were never stressed about money, and why do we not feel in control of our finances? And let's feel better. Let's get in control. So there is a lot around the practical side around how do you, for example, work with cash flow. But to pretend money is not emotional is partly why, it doesn't always feel good for people, even if they learn how to deal with money. So there you have it. Money coaches work on both the practical and the emotional side of money. And believe it or not, Marina, I've been doing this for 25 years. It's
Long time.
crazy.
So, where does tango dancing fall into this?
Tango dancing. So I've been a financial coach for 25 years. And about 7 years ago, I fell in love with tango. And, like many people, part of it was connected to new life chapters. I went through a divorce. I was on the verge of empty nesting, looking for a new, it started off as such an innocent hobby. And then I got obsessed, completely obsessed. So I'm probably out dancing. Yeah, you would never believe it, Marina, but I'm probably out, 5 nights a week. And here's the fun
Love it.
part. I know, isn't that fun? I eventually met the man I married at a tango house party. So it's kind of funny the way the world works, right? So I coach by day, I dance by night.
Beautiful. Well, listen, everything works out for us. Everything happens for a reason. Clearly, dancing was meant to be a part of your life.
Clearly.
So, I want to go back to the fact that you said that money is emotional. And I want to ask you, do you have any kind of background in manifestation? Because that's a huge or a huge concept about manifestation is that it's all about how you feel. And we push a lot of the things that we want away because deep down, subconsciously, we're kind of scared of it or we have this, unworthiness wound. So I'm assuming that's very,
Absolutely,
intertwined.
absolutely. I mean, I'm a coaches and financial coaches always have to be this interesting combination of the practical and the emotional because money is so both. But so much is mindset, exactly like you just said. So while my undergraduate is in economics, my master's is in transpersonal psychology. And I love this side that you're bringing up because so much is about our mindset, about our history, our personal psychology, our money personality. And I find that a lot of this really does go back to our childhood, how we were raised around money. And whether it was said or not, we saw everything. We saw how money was handled, discussed. Unfortunately, we hear our parents fighting about it, or we just pick up this belief of, oh, you shouldn't talk about money at all. So, a lot of this leads into what I call the money fog and why, as adults, we feel very foggy around money. And then you're bringing up another layer, which is, do we feel like we deserve to have money? And a lot of deep issues around deservedness go deeper than just money. They go into self-esteem and do we fundamentally deserve, period, right? Do we deserve to have what we need and what we want in life? And, huge subjects, granted, but if you're really trying to heal your relationship to money, those are places you have to go,
Yeah, it's the perpetual battle with anything that we want in life is really truly believing that we are worthy of it.
right?
So, if you don't mind me asking, is that something that you experienced heavily in your childhood? Did you find yourself with that scarcity mindset around money and then that's kind of the trajectory that or did you have some kind of
Right. Do
tower
we
moment?
teach? Yeah. Do we teach what we most need to heal? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to say yes. I mean, in case my mom's listening, love you, mom. I did have wonderful, wonderful parents, and we just didn't have a lot. We were raised when I was younger, food stamps and government cheese, and my parents were doing their best to finish college, but got married very young and had kids very young before either of them had finished college. I was born when my dad was fighting in Vietnam. So, it's kind of a hard start for a young family. And we just didn't have a lot. And I associated, well, I learned don't really talk about money. And I know now as an adult that, my parents did talk about money behind closed doors. The belief was don't talk about it in front of the kids.
Hmm.
So, how are you supposed to learn this really, really important thing? Right. And so I went off to college. I knew very little. I didn't know how to handle credit cards. And so I got into credit card debt. No one ever talked to me about how do you ask for a raise? How do you ask for what you're worth? It's like, it just wasn't, it was like this blank spot in my childhood. And so I had to really learn in some ways the hard way. I had to get myself out of debt and I think I was an under earner, right? I had this pattern of underselling yourself.
Hmm.
My mom worked for the church. Let's add that in, right? So, of course, we're going to do really good work, but don't let money taint the good work was one of those beliefs that's not that uncommon. And, the dilemma is that really can create a form of what I call noble poverty. And that doesn't really serve anyone.
Can you go more into that phrase?
Noble poverty. So
Hmm.
I would say noble poverty is the belief that there's virtue in not having money. that really good people either don't need money, shouldn't want money, shouldn't spend a lot of time trying to get money. And there is also the sense that somehow money will taint the spiritual process. And it's a hard one because the question is, well, where does that come from? And a lot of different places. In Judeo-Christian cultures, some people are there's like a biblical misquote that the money is the root of all evil.
Hmm.
Now, some of your listeners know that that's a misquote. It's the pursuit and over love and over desire for money that causes problems. By the time this stuff is translated over the over the
Right.
centuries, right? Um, but again, a lot of us believe that, and it's not conscious. I think the other thing I'd add, Marina, is that even though, like, I know so many of your listeners strive to live really conscious, holistic lives. But the dilemma, again, is that so many of us have not integrated mind and body,
Hmm.
right? So we're still treating spirit as separate from the material world. And if you're going to do that, again, we're not talking about it directly that way, but if we're living as if spirit is separate than, the body and the material world, well, what side do we put money on? Well, we put money on the material side. And so it's like, oh, well, then does that make us less spiritual people if here we are talking about money? So it's kind of a whole mess of things in there.
I mean, it's tricky as humans because our ego gets involved. And in my last episode, I was speaking about us being our own worst critics. And I think there's a very common and similar misperception that, well, if I have self worth or if I have self confidence, I'll come across as narcissistic and that's bad. So we'll default more likely to the self deprecation side as opposed to talking about our accomplishments and being proud of ourselves and being confident, but it's that fine line of being humble and still being worthy of your accomplishments, but not, I don't know, demonizing it. But can you go more into the cross section between spirituality and money? Just like dive a little bit deeper into that. It's really
Oh,
interesting.
that's such a deep well, isn't it? Yeah. So oh my goodness, there's so much there. A lot of times, I mean, we can go into the masculine versus spiritual energy. That goes very, very deep in there. I think that if you go at it from the point of view of abundance, which is almost an overused buzzword in the manifestation world, but also a really, really powerful spiritual concept because abundance is an internal state. It's an internal felt state of enoughness, being enough, feeling enough, knowing that we are enough, which is different than the external expression
Hmm.
in the outside material world of now I see material abundance. And, ideally, we want both. We want this union. We want this to feel more holistic. And when we feel satisfied, when we feel internally whole, when we feel internally abundant, that does express as external abundance. But, we need to start from the inside first and from there have it be an expression. And I think that sometimes it's almost like our receiving valve is stuck, right? And more so for women than men. We're good at giving, giving, giving. We're not as good at receiving. And
Hmm.
so, so much of this around the money conversation goes to balance. We want to give and receive. It is important to both really feel good about, earning money and giving money. People tend to be very, very myopic and pick up one piece where it's okay to do something in a way around money, but we deserve to make great money, right? We deserve to feel good about how we spend our money. And it doesn't make us bad people if we want a nice thing that costs money. So how do we integrate this spiritually?
And what do you think? How do we start? Where do we start from like ground zero? Do you have any tips?
I'll say many tips, but the first
Yeah.
one that comes to mind is I vote that we retune our radar. And what I mean by that is, I know especially that we tend to look for examples that support what we believe.
Mhm.
So if we think, rich people are greedy, just take the obvious belief that sometimes comes up. And then we look in the news and we look for examples and they just scream out at us. They're like, yep, proof. I knew it. I knew wealthy people were greedy and sensitive and feel superior because we're so sure that's true that we find things that support that. So if you want to start shifting how you feel about money and all this topic that you and I are talking about today, I would challenge your listeners to start compiling a list of positive examples of wealthy people. People that are, for example, philanthropically minded. If you've got a cause that you love, I would find out who's funding your cause. They're in the newspaper too. They tend to not be on the front page because it's not as sensationalistic, right? But who is working with women's health issues in Africa, right? Or whatever is in your heart. I really want people to really focus in on who are the positive role models around money that are supporting what you personally believe in. And it takes effort. It takes effort to really start tuning your radar. But my vote is you try to find 3 examples a week.
I love that. And that's for anything, in my opinion, that you want to start experiencing more, whether it's more money, whether it's love, finding examples of loving relationships, whether it's a career, finding people that love their careers, etc. So, um, that is excellent advice. Thank you.
Well, and it's part of the manifestation, right? What we
Yeah.
see and bring in, we naturally start to mirror it. I mean, it really does have a profound impact on us.
I'm curious. I believe, or from my understanding, you work mostly with women. Do you feel that this concept is gendered in a way? Like, do you feel that women struggle with this more than men do? With having a
Yeah, I mean,
positive mindset
yeah,
around
no,
money?
it's a big question. My specialty does happen to be in feminine success psychology. And I do have some male clients and I do adore them. And it's different, right? I mean, women tend to struggle more with asking for what they're worth, for example, right? Women are no more likely than men to be a spender versus a saver, for example. Um, but women do struggle more with financial anxiety than
Mm.
men do. Women carry a lot more stress around money. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting pieces to the gender piece. I'd also say that, I mean, the studies are pretty clear for women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Most of us grew up and our parents talked to our brothers about money more than they talk to us. And that's just simply true. It may not be true for someone's particular family, but that's what all the research shows. And is it changing? I think it is changing. You may have listeners in their 20s and 30s who feel like, nope, their parents totally talk to them about money equally, brothers and sisters for sure. But, if you're 40 and over, there is a fascinating gender piece. And I'm so happy that we can not pretend it's not true and be able to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing about they talk to their your brothers is so true. I want to go back to when you talked about being raised with secretism. I don't, is that's a word, right?
Yeah,
Secretism
well,
around money.
I say if it
It
isn't,
is
it should
now.
be. Yep.
Yeah.
Boom, it is.
Do you have any advice on appropriate ways that we can talk about financial literacy, whether it's with children or grown adults?
The big question is how old everyone is and what's age appropriate. Because
Sure.
I get a lot of questions from parents about how to talk to their kids about money. And so much, I mean, no one knows their kids like, like your kids, right? I mean, we know our kids the best, and what is works for one kid may be different. for another kid. I think that part of it is starting earlier conversations around needs and wants, and which is not about money, but it's a foundational concept so that kids need to feel seen and heard just developmentally. And this often gets skipped or screwed up in a very strange way when it comes to money in particular. So when kids want whatever it is they want, which is completely normal, you don't want to go to one extreme or the other. Either, nope, nope, no, you can't have that. No, 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 it's always no, or completely ignoring it. Or the opposite, give little Johnny and Susie whatever they want. Both mess up a person around money and their future relationship to money. So it's important for kids to know that they can come to their parents and go, I want this. And for you to go, you know what? I really hear you. Let's write this down on your wants list. Let's write it down, right? And it's interesting because kids feel a huge sense of relief and seenness. Oh, again, is that a word? I don't know.
It is now.
It is now, right? And and it's great because over time it really helps for kids to go know that their list is safe, know that mom or dad has their wants list, on their phone usually, and they can sit down at any time with mom and dad and look at their list. And it's so fun when it comes to birthdays and Christmas and really having those conversations around, okay, let's look at three things from the list, right? Or let's look at a creative way to meet this need that you have. You may want the $200 Lego set. What is there about that you really love? Oh, it's the Darth Vader pieces that you're really wanting. Okay, well, there's a couple other ways we can get this that would be maybe a little bit more doable for your birthday, right? And that's the foundation of a healthy relationship to money before you're really talking dollars and cents. And then from there, there's a million other ways, but it's a fun way in. And I don't know if this episode will air before Christmas, but that comes up a lot. Kids are like the screaming memes are are out right now in terms of everything that kids want. Um, I grew up going to Toys R Us, which I don't even know how it hardly exists anymore, and taking my son to Toys R Us. Are they totally done?
I
They're all closed
think
now?
I don't know. I feel like they went bankrupt, but then they came back.
Yeah, I
But
can't.
I don't know.
Whatever your local toy store is, all the parents listening.
Amazon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Amazon's interesting because that's a whole other kettle of fish in terms of online shopping versus brick and mortar shopping, right? But just, really helping whatever age your children are, having a list. And honestly, Marina, I'd say this to adults too. I come up with a needs and wants list every holiday season, all the stuff I need and want for the new year.
That was going to be my next question. How do we translate this into adulthood? Because I want to make a needs and wants list, but how do we decipher what really is a need and a want?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. So I have my clients do an interesting exercise over the holidays. I have them brainstorm everything that they need or want, and don't worry if it's a need or a want, in three ways. All of the material items that they may need or want, all of the services that they may need or want, which could be, house cleaning and more dog walking and let's get a tutor for the kids. And then all the experiences that they need or want, which, for many people is travel,
Mhm.
all the places that they want to go. So I have everyone kind of write everything down in one big pile, if you will. And then we start discerning, is this a need or is it a want? And the fundamental difference is if it is a need, it's about health. It's part of my spiritual health, my physical health, my mental health. Like if this item, if I feel, and it's very personal, right, that this is going to make me a healthier person, I'm going to put this on the need side. If it would be nice to have, I'm going to put it on the want side. The thing is, both sides are important, right? There's nothing wrong with having wants. We just need a way to start discerning needs from wants because you want to meet your needs first.
Mhm. So once those needs are met, then you're saying we can move on to the next step and focus on the wants.
Yeah, bingo. Yeah, my one of my very first mentors, Karen McCall, was she's just this wonderful like the grandmother of money coaching in the United States, and she would always talk about how it sometimes what people do is let's say that they've got an electrical issue in their house, but and that which is a need, right? This is safety
Mhm.
and security. But oh, who wants to spend money dealing with hiring an electrician? So they put up pretty wallpaper over the walls. Well, eventually you've got, wires sticking out, but we're just like papering over the underlying needs with this sort of pretty things so that we can be in denial about what do we truly need to be safe and secure. Because what do I want? I'd rather spend my money on wallpaper,
Mhm.
right? So it's an interesting thing when you get into needs and wants. It's a huge topic when it comes to a healthy relationship to money.
So, is there a specific way that you suggest people start up leveling once those needs are all met?
The my I'm trying to think if this is like the I'll tell you the answer, but it's probably too big of an answer, but I'll say it anyways. The answer is working with a spending plan process. When people come to me, the number one thing that they say is I'm tired of not feeling in control of my money. That's the number one thing, which is both practical and emotional, right? We're tired of not feeling great about our money. And so the next question is, well, how do you feel in control of your money? And
Mhm.
the answer is beginning to work with a spending plan process where you can sit down and go, okay, here's the plan for where I want to spend my money in December, which is of course going to beg the question, well, does it work? How do we make it work? Because ultimately, if we've got X amount of money and X amount of expenses, that puts us into this really creative, almost alchemical process around making our life work around money. But people are afraid to go there, right? They're afraid of, what am I going to see? And there's a lot of fears that can come up, including, am I going to see I don't make enough money? Am I going to see that I can't do what I want to do? But we've got to be willing to go there so that we can start creatively putting a plan together that works, because over time it will work and you will get your needs met and start moving into your wants.
And that's just taking into consideration where we are exactly in our life right now, the income that we're making. But I feel like there's a lot of us, especially since I'm on the younger side too, there's a lot of us that feel stressed about our salaries, what we're making, like getting those needs met in the first place. Um, is there a way that we can start letting go of those fears to make more money? Like, do you have advice in that vein of things?
I mean, I think that the answer doesn't change. The very first time I did a monthly spending plan, I was 25. And let me tell you, it wasn't pretty, right? I mean, there were a list of credit card payments, and I wanted more things and honestly needed more things than I had the money to cover. But it was still really calming to see everything, on the proverbial piece of paper, although at the time it actually was a piece of paper, because it let me start strategizing, what did I want to protect? What was important to me and what wasn't important to me? I got this feeling of control. And I did have to delay some things and put some things off. But what I liked about it was I was in charge, right?
Mhm.
I was deciding, what I was paying, what I was doing, what I was waiting on. And it was a very, very different feeling than, well, we'll just try to make it work and see where we are at the end of the month. And this constant stress of, I don't know. But I also say this, one of the very first things that came out of my very first spending plan was I got crystal clear that I wasn't making enough money. And I hadn't quite realized it, because who wants to think about it? And 2 months later, I asked for my first raise.
Mm.
And I honestly don't think I would have. Now, I'm not saying it was life changing and it was a huge raise, but it helped.
It's the
I
stepping
don't think I would have
stones.
gone there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And again, going full circle back to the concept of manifestation, a lot of those principles are acting as that future you of that person that you want to be. Would that person that has that kind of money, that has that dream career, has that dream house, that goes on the vacations, what would they act like? Start acting like them. And the person who has more money would be confident enough to ask for that raise. So,
Here, I'll throw this out in terms of manifestation. One, because there's so many powerful, concepts. Like if you just take the law of attraction, for example,
yeah.
super powerful. Um, and a lot of people, and I know don't quite hit the mark. So if it's money, the difference would be this. You would never call, like let's go old fashioned. You would never call up the catalog company and say, "Hey, send me a red shirt." Okay. It doesn't work that way. The universe cannot give you what you want if you're not really clear and specific. If you say, send me a red shirt, they're going to say, well, which style and which size? And we've
Hmm.
got two different colors of red. So it's why manifestation principles work incredibly well the clearer you get about money, because you start putting out to the universe, what I want to put out there is that I earn $6,000 a month or more, right? We know how this works, in a way that is for my betterment and the betterment of the people around me. But if you
Hmm.
don't know what that number is, how are you having the universe help you if you're just saying, hey, universe, send me more money?
Exactly. If you want to be in control, you have to be very specific and detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I do want to start wrapping things up, but I want to give you a chance to talk about your book first and just give yourself a little shout out why the listeners need to be paying attention.
Thank you for that. So, the book that I wrote is called Rise Above the Money Fog: The Key to Confidence, Clarity, and Control Over Your Life. And people can grab it on Amazon, Kindle, hard copy, anything they want. What I would recommend is if people are curious about money coaching, just grab a discovery call. So I would go to the website, Seattle Money Coach, seattlemoneycoach.com, and just book a free discovery call. I've got clients all over the United States. And if I am not the right money coach for someone, I train coaches and I can find someone who is a good fit for you. So I would do that. And the other option is there's a free quiz. I always forget this part on how do you know if you're in a money fog on the website, Seattle Money Coach. And it's just really helpful because there's so many ways that we're foggy that go a little bit more psychological, emotional, and spiritual. So it's got a great 10 question quiz to help your listeners figure that out.
Excellent. And then does it give kind of a game plan if you're in this kind of fog? Here's where we begin.
Yeah, that what are the next tips to get out of the fog? Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. If you could give one last piece of advice to the listeners surrounding money, maybe something you wish you knew when you were in your 20s, what would that be?
Well, besides taking up tango dancing,
Exactly.
I would say, ask for what you're worth. You're worth more than you know that you are. And I also, or more than you think you are. I
Yeah.
promise you, listeners, you are worth a lot of money. I would also say that it's a journey, right? Money is a journey. And wherever you are, you want to honor where you are in the journey and just keep moving on the journey. It's going to change, ebb, flow. You're going to grow in your relationship to money. And that's normal and as it should be, and just honor the journey.
Thank you so much, Mikelann. I am going to get your book on Amazon as soon as we hang up this call. But thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving.
You as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.